Okay, so here's the 3/8 ball calculated. And you can see that it's machining just the 3D stuff. Not machining any of the flats. And then the 1/4 inch cutter recalculated. So remember, it's going to cut wherever it sees material, so it's trying to cut the outside walls, which we obviously don't want. So we're going to have to recalculate that. But apart from those walls, it's just cutting all the areas where we expected it to, where there was stock. So we've got to do something about that stuff. Let's go into the procedure. And let's see, how do we want to contain this? So let's back out for a second. We'll go to the CAD side. Let's go to the sets. And let's turn on the NC. We do the high other. No, that's not what we want. We want 3D and horizontal. Here we go. Let's see what happens if we go to composite curve, faces, outer boundary. Okay, that looks good. Switch to the cam side, and we're going to go here. And we're going to go to boundary settings, and we're going to go to on. Minus TLDI times 0.4. Okay, so if we're set to on and it's a 1/4 inch cutter, if we were at minus 1/8, that means the cutter could come right up to the edge of the outside boundary, but we're making it 40%, so it can't possibly cross over that line. You need to choose it. So when I'm selecting a boundary, and if it's a composite curve, I normally choose multi-contours. And it's just one pick, and it automatically picks that chain, not trying to rechain anything. And then save and calculate. And do the same thing for the floors. Back in the display state. to bring the surfaces back on the screen. And then while it's calculating, let's talk about this little notch right here. So this little notch hasn't been machined yet. And let's take one of these roughers and do a copy and paste. And then we're going to change the boundary to be there. We need to unselect that surface. Now you notice that when you're selected by sets, you can't just pick and unpick things. So if you go to criteria, we're going to unselect the sets. And if you pull up the sets while we're in the geometry selection area, you can still pick the surface, right click and say select entities. And then by doing that, you can then go in and individually turn things on and off, or I guess select and deselect. So that's a good way to select using sets without being hard coded to be whatever's on that set. We're going to change the cutter to a 1/16 ball. Okay, 1/16 ball. And then normally when I'm roughing with a ball cutter, the fixed vertical step at 3% is still a good value, but the side step for roughing with a ball cutter, I'll normally do 10%. Okay, and then check the RPM and feed rate. So we'll do 7,500 and 20. Check the surface speed. That's 1,003 chip load per tooth at 120 surface speed per minute. I'm limited by the machine RPM here, so 9,000 is the most I can go. Whoops, let me put that there. 9,000 for RPM gives me 150 surface speed per minute. And feet per tooth was 1,002 gives me 21 inches a minute. Alright, and then save and close. And then we're going to do copy and paste again. And this time take the 1/32. I don't have a 1/32 here. What else do we got? Alright, so I'm going to, instead of using the library, I'm going to go to a different document where I know I've got a 1/32. Let's see, so pipe diameter. start the 1/32 cutter, and everything's driven by formula, so I'm going to change anything anywhere else. And then we'll launch these two guys. And while that's calculating, we'll look at the result of the 1/4 inch cutter. We kept it from going outside, which is good, but for some reason it's still trying to cut that wall right there. I'm not sure why. Let's take a quick look at it. Well, that boundary is kind of weird because that's a vertical wall, and I'm going around it like across the top and across the bottom, so that probably is why there's an issue there. We can change boundary to be a little bit less. But the other thing that we could do is we could go over here to the geometry selection and do a multi-surface group and say 2 surface groups. And the second one, if I right click, I can say move surfaces from another group. We got the sets issue going on here, okay? So we got to go back to the per surfaces, go to the criteria, turn off these guys, and then go to the sets and do select entities from NC. And now when I go to the second group, I can right click and say move surfaces from another group, and I can pick those 2 walls. And over here we're going to say that the group 1 we're cutting to within 10 thousandths, and group 2 we're going to say 20 thousandths, and then that should not cut that wall because we're telling it to stay away by 20. So as long as there's less stock on the wall than 20 thousandths, it's not going to cut there. Okay, here's our roughing path with the 1/16 ball, and then the roughing path with the 1/32, and then we'll do a copy and paste and change this to finish procedure, finish mill by limit angle. And we just have to change the side step. So the horizontal step will be 1 side step. And a 1/1000 down step. When I'm using surface mode by limit angle, I normally do the mixed optimized. It wouldn't have much impact in this example, but it's the one I prefer. And then the slope limit angle we'll set to 45 degrees. That means that's the break between horizontal and vertical. And save and calculate. And this might be waiting for the stock to recalculate. So the finished procedures only look at the stock for the entry and exit moves. There's no need for it to be on here. It is set to ignore. Okay, so that should calculate before the roughers are finished. And here we go. Because my boundary was set to overlap, we got a little bit of overlap there in the finished procedure. That's a good looking path. Alright, I'm going to show you another little trick. If I go over here to the navigator, I can position the tool right down here. Oh, wait a minute, something looks funny. I think we got a surface offset here. Let's look at the surface offset. Yeah, that should have been cut to 0. I know what the problem is here. The problem is that the 3/8 ball never cut that wall, and we left 30 thousandths on it. With the 1¼ cutter. So if we look at the remaining material here, after the 1/2 cutter ran, you can see there's a lot of material left there. So we would have to set the second group to be like 30 or maybe 35. So let's do this. We're going to switch to advanced for the surface offset. We're going to be 10 away on the walls, 10 away on the floors. And for that second group, we're going to go 0.035 on the walls and 10 thousandths on the floors. Let's see, make it. Yeah, that should be fine. And then save and calculate. And let's go back over here for a second. And we're going to go to the navigator. Or wait, no, not yet. First, we're going to just pick a couple of faces here. And then hide other. And then go to the navigator. And then go to our front view. is how we can tell how close are we getting to finishing that, because you can see that the 1/32 ball cutter is going to leave a little bit of stock there in that corner. Not much, but a little bit. The other thing that I'll do sometimes is I'll do a switch to CAD, do a parallel plane from here to there. Okay, and then do an intersection, wireframe intersection. With that plane. Okay, that gives me a cross section, right? And then we're going to go to the sketcher and draw on that plane and do add geometry. And then we're going to do a corner radius 0.03125 divided by 2. Okay, and then there's the difference between what the 1/32 can machine versus what the material, what the geometry looks like. And we can even measure it if we want to. So we're going to measure from here to there. And we can see that we've got basically 2/1000ths of material left over, which I'd be totally fine with cheating all day long. We could leave that. By the way, sometimes the measuring tool can be quirky. I like to use close to curve and close to face. So close to curve means I can pick anywhere along this curve and get a measurement without trying to force it to snap to the midpoint or the end point. Okay, let's go back now. And have a look at our 1/4 inch cutter. And there we go. We were able to keep it off that wall by giving it a different offset. And I mean, obviously we would want a machine down here because of the, well, maybe, I don't know. Anyways, that's how it works as far as the offsets will have a big impact upon what's getting machined and what isn't. Hope you learned something.